Hi everyone, welcome back into my channel. My name is Rebecca and this is my first motherhood video on this channel, so welcome into the playlist. I am a mum with disabilities. I also have a child with disabilities, so we're going to be going through that journey. So this video is starting right off at the very beginning with, my pregnancy and my birth story. So when I was 26 and my partner was 23, we both decided that we were both ready to start our family, or grow our family I should say. With that, I had been on the pill for almost 9 years at that point. So I went to my doctor and I said, hey, my partner and I are looking at trying, what do I need to do, what does he need to do to get our bodies prepared for contraception and for pregnancy and stuff like that. So first off, I did a bunch of blood tests to check that everything was good. I didn't need any extra iron or anything like that. We also did an antibody check in the vaccines and stuff that I'd had. I was very, very low on the MMR, so I had that done. I slowly got off the pill, and then I waited sort of 6 months to let my body adjust, let my body figure out a natural cycle. I was tracking my ovulation, and then once that was all kind of settled and everything was healthy and good, we were given the green light to start trying, and I felt pregnant within the first month, so that was shocking. If you don't know, I was born really, really premature. I've got a video up here and link down below. I got a little bit into more detail about that, but I was born at 22 weeks and 2 days gestation, 30 years ago, 1995. So I went up there, and the midwife told me, and the midwife sat me down. She told me, look, based on your history alone, you are automatically high risk. We highly recommend you coming here for all of your OB prenatal appointments and postnatal and birth and stuff like that, and deliver here. At first I was like, okay, I feel safe with you guys, you literally saved my life. But it was also a lot travel wise because we lived over an hour away, so it was going to be a lot. And we get public transport, by the way. I had gotten the NIPT test done and that all came back low risk. But then combining that with the 12-week scan, it was a very long scan, but they found her small jaw. So her jaw was very, very recessed, also known as micrognathia. And at the time, the GP pretty much told us, yeah, she's got a small jaw, she'll have surgery when she's born, otherwise she's healthy. Moving on, I had my first OB appointment. They had referred me from then on officially. I saw a high-risk OB, she's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, she confirmed the micrognathia at 16 weeks, and then they also thought that my daughter might have had talipes, bilateral talipes. They, highly, highly suggested having an amniocentesis. Now, this was completely optional, but they, they were based on she has 2 different possible, abnormalities. I think we need to check for chromosomes and, just to check, see what's going on. My mum initially had an amniocentesis done when she was pregnant with me, and then I was born a few weeks after that, so I was kind of terrified. And also, by the way, at the time, this was all during COVID. COVID was stressful enough, and then adding a high-risk pregnancy on top of that was not the smartest idea that I've ever had. Because of that, my partner was working at the time, so he couldn't be there when I did have the amniocentesis done. My mum was able to come in with me though, and she was shocked by how different they do everything now. Overall, the process and the procedure was very quick. I was on strict bed rest for a few days. I had a little bit of discomfort and bruising on the side area, but other than that I was fine. And then 2 weeks later we got the results. So our daughter has a red chromosome deletion on the 16q arm. It's between 11.2 to q12.2 that are missing, with also the SAL1 gene. So if you're into genetics, you know what all of that means. I only know that, and that's kind of it. For those first 2 weeks after that, because we didn't have an appointment with the genetics team until I think a week and a half, 2 weeks after finding out. Those 2 weeks were just the most stressful. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know her life expectancy. We knew nothing. So going into the genetics appointment, we were just all, open-minded. And yeah, they were she's 1 in 15 globally ever to be documented. At that point in time, I don't know what it's at now, but at that point in time she was 1 in 15 globally. Super, super, super rare. They didn't have a lot of information on her, so they kind of just told us, we're learning along with you. So now, not only was it high risk for me, myself and I, but I was also at high risk for my child. I mean, it seemed from that point on, almost every scan I had, there was something new. That was a possible thing that could crop up. You know, we didn't know if she had a cleft palate. I had an increase of amniotic fluid, so they weren't sure if she was able to tolerate that much amniotic fluid with her small jaw. You know, there was talks of like maybe possibly taking some fluid out, which ended up not being the case, thankfully, because it ended up being like towards the end of my pregnancy I had a huge decrease in fluid. But then there was the talipes, she had small kidneys, her heart was doing pretty good, but they just didn't know, they just weren't sure. Leading up to third trimester was when I was starting to go for weekly scans. So 33 weeks and 3 days gestation, I went for my 33-week appointment and scan and stuff like that. Everything looked normal, I had no issues, at least my body, in terms of handling the pregnancy. So it turns out that I had a decrease in amniotic fluid. There was also placenta flow issues. There was also like umbilical cord, blood flow, circulation issues as well. So with those things in mind, my OB, this was on a Friday, so my OB was like, okay, we're going to give you 2 celestine shots to prepare baby's lungs in case she does need to be delivered earlier. Chill over the weekend, pack your hospital bags, which I'd already done. By that point I had already completely prepared, like her room was set up and everything. And then, you know, come back Monday, see where we're at. If we have to continue the pregnancy, that's great. If not, we can go from there. So, and throughout that whole weekend, I just said to my partner and everybody else, unless she's going to be born Tuesday, I don't know what it is, she's going to be born Tuesday. I think a lot of it was because it was such a significant date. It was the 22nd of March that she was born, and the 22nd of March is such a significant date for our family, because my older sister, who was stillborn, was born on that day in 1994. The fact that she was born on that day was so significant. Like, my due date was the 2nd of May 2022. I found out I was pregnant with her 22nd of August. Like, there's just a lot of twos and, you know, double-digit synchronicities there, and I am very spiritual in that sort of sense, so I was all for that. It just felt right. And then sure enough, come Monday, we rocked up and they were like, look, there's a little bit of change after the celestine shots, but I'm still gonna speak to 2 different pediatricians and we'll go from there. So she took like 20 minutes, came back, spoke to 2 different doctors, and we all highly recommend that you have her as early as tomorrow. They gave me the option, do you want to try vaginal delivery or quote-unquote natural, or would you like to try C-section? And initially, like before all of this, I would have loved to have done a vaginal or try a vaginal delivery, but because circumstances and also my medical trauma and all of that was coming up, and again it was that control for not only us, but it was for the doctors and the NICU team so they could be all prepared and ready to go. So we went ahead with going for an elective / emergency C-section. I went and had all of my blood work done. I had the urine test, I had the test strip thing where you check for proteins and stuff, I think it's proteins in the urine. I had my blood pressure checked, everything was fine. I had no issues with that, by the way, throughout my entire pregnancy. So that was fine. That was that afternoon, like 4 or 5 p.m. that afternoon. Next morning we woke up at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. They checked my blood pressure. It's through the roof. And they're like, oh, have you had this have you ever experienced this before in your pregnancy? And I'm like, nope. And they were like, okay, well let's do some blood work, do a preeclampsia screening, and we'll go from there. I mean, you're already here to deliver anyway, so you're in the right place. Another thing that we did too that I'll just touch base on, I was doing a lot of research on like stem cell storage and stuff like that and the benefits of doing that, so I definitely wanted to do that. So we had the lady come by to collect what she could when our daughter was born. She actually said, she's like, oh, like when she showed us like the bag of how much she was able to get, she's like, I actually got so much more than I thought we would, because, you know, I wasn't full term and she was small. So yeah, we did that, just as a side note, and I'm really, really glad that we did that. So yeah, we just waited, and then I got wheeled in, and just as they started to cut me open, there was another doctor that came in and said, yep, she's got severe preeclampsia, she's in the right place. And the anaesthetist, by the way, was so gentle, he was so calming, it was wonderful, he really listened to me. He was like, do you feel safe, what do you need? And he just said, like, you know, so you've got a severe condition called preeclampsia, like, but you're in good hands, you're in the exact right place that you and your baby will need to be, like, you're safe. So yeah, and then she was born. She was so close to being an 11-11 baby, by the way, too, so close. She was a minute off, but I'll take it. We actually did hear her cry. We didn't know if we would because of her jaw and stuff like that, but we did hear her cry and it was beautiful. And then they just basically wheeled her straight to NICU. I didn't get chest time or anything like that. Then I got the Marina put in during surgery, and then they stitched me up. It took me probably 2 hours in recovery for me to be sent to the ward because I had the shakes really bad that they had to actually give me medicine to stop it. So once I was in the ward, it was safe for me to go down and actually meet my child for the first time. I'd seen photos, but it's nothing like the real thing in person. I went down there with my partner, and at the time it was usually, because of COVID, it was like one parent at a time, but they gave us like an exemption, which is really lovely. We actually, I think it was the first 24 hours or so that, Jessie mainly didn't have any like restrictions or anything, so that was so sweet of them to do. So when she was first born, for the first like couple hours or so, she didn't have a CPAP on. The first photo that we got together when I held her, she did have a CPAP on, but I also do have photos of her without the CPAP on, and she had lots of hair, and yeah, it was just a really sweet moment for us. It was very surreal. Now here we are. So I am going to continue the series. Next video on this, I'll talk about our NICU journey and what that's like, and at least for our experience and our journey, everything that goes within that and all of his surgeries and stuff like that, and kind of where we're at now. Hope you guys really enjoyed this video. If you feel comfortable, let me know your birth story. What was your experience like? Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you're all doing well. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.